The hearing room in Berlin smells of old wood and cigarette smoke. Spring light filters through tall windows, illuminating dust particles that drift like snow that never falls. At the center of a long oak table sits a man in a Wehrmacht uniform, his shoulders straight despite the crutches leaning against his chair. Captain Victor Steiner, 42 years old, answers questions he has answered 100 times before. How did Army Group Center fail to take Moscow? The tribunal members wait, pens poised over notepads. They are old men, most of them veterans of the previous war. They know what questions to ask. They know what answers they expect. Steiner looks past them, through the windows, to the gray sky beyond. We defeated the Red Army in the field. We outmaneuvered them. We destroyed their tanks, captured their soldiers, broke through their lines. We did everything the plan required. And yet Moscow stands. Steiner shifts in his chair. The stumps where his feet used to be send phantom pains up legs that no longer exist. He has learned not to wince. Pain is a private matter. We couldn't defeat December. The answer hangs in the air like smoke. One of the tribunal members, an old general with Iron Cross ribbons from 1917, nods slowly. He understands. The others do not. Not yet. They will ask more questions. They will demand tactical explanations, strategic analyses, detailed accounts of positions held and lost. Steiner will provide them. But the truth is simpler and more terrible than any tactical failure. Winter came, and winter does not negotiate. The general leans forward. Tell us how it began. Captain. From the beginning. Steiner closes his eyes. The hearing room disappears. The smell of cigarette smoke is replaced by the smell of diesel fuel and summer dust. When he opens his eyes again, he is no longer in Berlin. He is standing in a field in eastern Poland. And the date is June 21st, 1941. The sun is setting. Tomorrow, the world will change. The briefing tent is hot. Canvas walls trap the June heat, turning the space into an oven. Steiner stands before a map pinned to a wooden board. His company assembled in rows before him. 180 men. Their faces are young, confident, some of them already tanned from the march east. They believe they are invincible. They have earned the right to believe it. France fell in 6 weeks. Poland in less. Why should Russia be any different? Steiner does not shower their confidence, but he keeps this to himself. An officer's doubts are his own burden. Gentlemen, at 0400 hours tomorrow, Operation Barbarossa commences. We cross the Soviet border as part of the 2nd Battalion, 12th Infantry Regiment, 6th Panzer Division. Our objective is the road junction at Minsk, then Smolensk, then Moscow. The Fuhrer expects the campaign to conclude before winter. Intelligence estimates Soviet resistance will collapse within 8 to 12 weeks. He pauses. The men wait. Some smile. They have heard these promises before, and the promises came true. Steiner continues. We advance as a mechanized infantry company. Transport trucks will carry our heavy equipment. Panzers from the 3rd Division will provide armored support. The Luftwaffe has achieved air superiority. Supply lines will follow our advance. You will receive winter uniforms if needed, though command believes the campaign will end before cold weather arrives. In the front row, Platoon Sergeant Klaus Hoffmann shifts his weight. 36 years old, scarred face, eyes that have seen Dunkirk and lived to remember it. Beside him sits Corporal Martin Engel, Klaus's friend since France, a quiet man who keeps photographs of his wife in his breast pocket. Klaus catches Steiner's eye. The look they exchange says what cannot be spoken aloud. They are professionals. They have seen wars before. They know that plans and reality are distant cousins. To Hoffman's left sits a young man with a radio pack strapped to his back. Franz Weber, 22, too thin for his uniform, hands that seem more suited to a piano than a rifle. Steiner chose him as radio man, not for his strength but for his steadiness. The boy does not panic. In war, this quality is worth more than muscle. Further back, almost invisible in the crowd, sits Johann Schmidt, 19 years old. Blonde hair, farm boy face. Still waiting for a proper beard to grow. He enlisted 6 months ago. This will be his first campaign. The boy looks excited. Steiner wishes he could warn him. Excitement dies quickly in war. But some lessons can only be learned through experience. Steiner rolls up the map. We move out at 300. Get sleep.
Tomorrow we make history.
The men file out. Most of them joke and smoke. A few write letters home. Johann sits alone, cleaning his rifle for the third time that day. Franz checks his radio equipment. Methodical and quiet. Klaus approaches Steiner as the tent empties. Martin following a step behind. You believe it?
Sir.
8 weeks. Steiner studies Boos, the older sergeant. They fought together in France. They trust each other with truths that ranks normally forbid. I believe we'll follow orders. Sergeant. That's all that matters. Klaus nods slowly. Martin lights a cigarette. Offers one to Steiner. The captain accepts. I was in Russia in 18...
Sir.
Klaus says this quietly. Winter campaign near Riga. It was different from France. The war ended before winter came. In 18...
Yes, sir.
It did. They stand in silence. Outside, someone plays a harmonica. The tune is familiar. Something from before the war, when songs were about love instead of death. Steiner dismisses them with a nod. The sergeants leave. Steiner remains alone in the empty tent, studying the rolled-up map that shows arrows pointing east. The arrows make it look simple. Advance. Conquer.
Win.
He has learned not to trust arrows on maps. The invasion begins exactly on schedule. At 4 a.m, 3 million German soldiers cross the Soviet border simultaneously, along a front stretching from the Baltic to the Black Sea. The artillery barrage shakes the ground. Like an earthquake. Steiner's company moves forward in trucks, part of an endless column of vehicles raising dust into the summer sky. The air smells of diesel and cordite. Franz sits in the lead truck, radio, headset on, monitoring battalion frequency. His hands rest on the equipment with surprising gentleness. Steiner watches from the passenger seat. The boy has not spoken since the border crossing. There is nothing to say. History is being made, and words seem inadequate. The first Soviet positions fall within hours. Frontier guards surrender in confused groups. Their officers dead or fled. By noon, Steiner's company has advanced 15 kilometers without firing a shot. By evening, 30 kilometers. The plan is working. The timetable holds. Johann fires his rifle for the first time on the second day. A Soviet machine gun nest opens up from a tree line. Klaus orders suppressing fire. Johann shoots. Reloads. Shoots again. His hands shake. When the position falls silent, they advance to find 3 bodies in Soviet uniforms. One of them is younger than Johann. The boy stares at what he has done. Klaus puts a hand on his shoulder. You did your job. That's all there is. Johann nods, but does not speak. Something changes in his eyes. Steiner sees it happen. The excitement is gone. Reality has arrived. The advance continues. Villages burn. Roads filled with refugees heading east. Possessions piled on carts. Children crying. Old women praying. Soviet prisoners march west in columns. Thousands of them. Hands on their heads. Faces blank with shock. The German army moves past them like a machine. Unstoppable. Relentless. Franz keeps the radio log. Each entry is precise. Grid coordinates. Enemy contact, casualties. Kilometers gained. The numbers tell a story of perfect success. By the end of June, they have covered 200 kilometers. By mid-July, 400. Moscow is 800 kilometers from the start line. At this rate, they will arrive by September. But small things begin to go wrong. Supply trucks break down on rough roads. Replacement parts arrive late or not at all. The summer heat is worse than expected. Men drink water faster than the supply corps can deliver it. Dust gets into everything. Engines, food, lungs. Some soldiers develop respiratory infections. The field hospital treats them and sends them back to duty. But they move slower, cough more, fall behind on marches. Steiner notes these problems in his journal each evening. He does not report them up the chain of command. Every army has friction. These are normal difficulties. Manageable. Nothing that would threaten the overall plan. In late July, they reach Smolensk. The city falls after hard fighting. Steiner's company loses 8 men. Their first real casualties. Klaus organizes the burial detail with Martin's help. They dig graves in Russian soil and mark them with helmets on rifles. Franz plays a harmonica during the service. No one knew he could play. The sound is sad and clean. Johann asks Steiner a question that night.
Sir,
Do we ever get used to this? Steiner considers lying. Instead, he tells the truth. No. We just get better at carrying it. The boy accepts this. He is learning that war is not about getting used to death. It is about continuing despite it. August brings more victories, more kilometers, more Soviet prisoners. The numbers in Franz's radio log grow larger. Enemy tanks destroyed. Artillery pieces captured. Towns occupied. The Wehrmacht is a machine that consumes distance and spits out conquest. But the supply officer begins to look worried. He confides in Steiner during a brief halt. We're outrunning our logistics. Captain, the trucks can't keep up. We're burning fuel faster than it arrives. Can you maintain current operations? For now. But if we push much further, if we need to operate through winter, the campaign will be over before winter. The supply officer nods. He wants to believe this. They all want to believe this. Steiner does not mention that he has started counting the days until October. That is when the weather traditionally changes. In this part of the world, that is when the rain comes. And after the rain, the cold. He writes in his journal, that night by candlelight, August 15th, supply lines stretched, thin, men showing fatigue. Still, 800 kilometers from Moscow. Campaign must conclude before October, or we face difficulties. He underlines the word difficulties twice. September arrives with the first hints of autumn. The air grows cooler at night. Leaves begin to change color. In the forests they pass. The advance continues, but slower now. Soviet resistance stiffens. They are no longer facing confused border guards, but regular army units, well-positioned, fighting with desperate skill. Steiner's company takes more casualties. By mid-September, they are down to 168 men. 12 dead. Small numbers in the grand scheme of the campaign, but each loss is felt. These are not replaceable parts. These are men with names, histories, families, waiting for letters that will never arrive. Martin shows Klaus new photographs during a rest halt. His wife sent them with a supply convoy. She is pregnant, due in December. Martin's hands tremble slightly as he holds the pictures. Klaus claps him on the shoulder, says something about becoming a father. They laugh. It is the last time Steiner hears Martin laugh. The rain starts on September 28th. At first, it is light, a drizzle that dampens uniforms and makes the men uncomfortable, but does not stop movement. Within 3 days, it becomes a deluge. The sky opens and pours water onto the earth without mercy or pause. The dirt roads, baked hard by summer sun, begin to soften. By October 1st, the roads are gone. Steiner stands in what used to be a village square, watching trucks sink into mud up to their axles. Drivers gun engines, wheels spin uselessly, throwing up brown slop that splatters everything within 10 meters. The sound is obscene, a mechanical screaming that accomplishes nothing. Klaus organizes work details with Martin as his second. Men push trucks, while drivers try to ease them forward. Franz joins the effort, his pianist hands straining against metal that refuses to move. Johann slips and falls, face first into the mud. He comes up spitting, covered head to toe in brown filth. No one laughs. They are all equally filthy. The company that moved 40 kilometers a day in June now struggles to advance 4. Horses die in the mud. They step into soft ground that looks solid and sink, thrashing, breaking legs in hidden holes. The soldiers shoot them rather than let them suffer. The sound of mercy killings becomes as common as rain. Tanks become useless. Panzer divisions that smashed Soviet defenses in summer now sit motionless, trapped in fields of liquid earth. Engineers try to build corduroy roads from logs. The logs sink. They try metal planking. It bends and disappears into the muck. Nothing works. The ground has become an enemy that cannot be fought with bullets or courage. Steiner receives new orders on October 10th. Advance, regardless of conditions. Moscow offensive begins in 3 weeks. All units must be in position. He reads the order twice. Then he calls Klaus, Martin, and Franz to his command post, a partially collapsed barn that leaks rain through holes in the roof. We're to advance 30 kilometers in the next 5 days. Klaus studies the map, then glances at the window, where rain streams down in sheets. Martin stands silent. Always the quiet one.
Sir.
We've moved 8 kilometers in the last 5 days. Those are the orders.
Sergeant.
Klaus says nothing. He understands. Orders are orders, even when they are impossible. The company tries. For 5 days, they push trucks, drag equipment, march through knee-deep mud that sucks boots off feet. Men develop infections from the constant wet. Their skin becomes raw, peeling off in strips. Trench foot spreads through the ranks. The medic treats it with what little supplies he has. But there is no cure except dry socks and warm shelter. They have neither. On the 3rd day, Martin slips while pushing a supply truck. He falls into mud that turns out to be deeper than it looked, much deeper. He sinks to his waist, then his chest. He tries to climb out, but the mud has him. Klaus sees it happening. He runs over, extends his rifle for Martin to grab. Franz arrives, grabs Klaus's belt to anchor him. Others join the human chain. Martin reaches for the rifle. His fingers are inches away. Then he sinks lower. The mud is up to his neck. His eyes go wide, not with pain but with understanding. He knows what is happening. He knows he cannot stop it. Hold on. We'll get you out. Klaus's voice is calm, but his face betrays him. He knows the truth too. Martin sinks. The mud reaches his chin, his mouth. The photographs of his wife slide from his breast pocket, disappear into the brown water. His nose. His eyes meet Klaus's for one final second. He mouths something. It might be her name. Then the mud covers him completely. The surface ripples once, twice. Then it is still. Franz pulls Klaus back. They stand at the edge, breathing hard, staring at mud that shows no sign of the man it just swallowed. Other soldiers arrive. Someone asks what happened. Klaus walks away without answering. He finds a place behind the barn where no one can see him and stands there in the rain for 20 minutes. When he returns, his face is blank again. Professional. Whatever he felt, he has buried it somewhere the men cannot see. But Steiner notices that Klaus's hands shake slightly when he lights a cigarette. The tremor will not go away. That night, Steiner makes a decision. He calls battalion headquarters on the radio. Franz holds the headset, listening to the transmission. Captain Steiner requesting permission to halt advance until conditions improve. The reply is immediate and frigid. Request denied. All units will maintain offensive operations. Delays are unacceptable.
Sir.
We've lost 8 men to the mud in 3 days. Equipment losses are severe. We cannot maintain this pace. You will maintain this pace. Captain, those are your orders. The transmission ends. Steiner takes the headset from Franz and sets it down carefully. The boy's face asks the question. His voice does not. We follow orders. That's what soldiers do. Even when the orders are wrong, Steiner studies his radio man. Franz is learning what Klaus and Steiner learned years ago. That war is not about right and wrong. It is about obedience and survival. And sometimes those things are enemies. Especially then. They advance 4 more kilometers in the next 2 days. The cost is 3 more men lost to the mud, 2 to accidents, 1 to infection. The company is down to 153. They have not fired a shot at the enemy in a week. The mud is killing them more efficiently than any Soviet soldier. Steiner writes in his journal, October 14th. Martin Engel. Drowned today. Klaus watched it happen. A good man. Swallowed by Russian mud. The ground here kills as surely as bullets. Morale declining. Men questioning the advance. I have no answers to give them. On October 23rd, the rain stops. The men cheer. They believe the worst is over. Steiner knows better. Rain stops for only 2 reasons. Either the weather improves, or it gets worse. He studies the sky. Low clouds, the color of old iron. The temperature has dropped 10 degrees overnight. He knows which one this is. The ground hardens in a single night. Mud that was liquid yesterday is stone today. Trucks that were stuck can move again. The men smile. They joke that fortune has returned to their side. Orders come through. The final push on Moscow begins in 2 weeks. All units are to reach their start positions immediately. Steiner assembles his company in the frozen field. Their breath comes out in clouds. Franz noticed it first. Yesterday morning. Now everyone sees it. The air has teeth. We resume the advance at 0600. Moscow is 120 kilometers northeast. We will be in position for the final offensive within 4 days. The men believe him because they want to believe. Johann asks the question others are thinking.
Sir.
What about winter gear? The uniforms? Steiner has asked this question up the chain of command 5 times in the past 2 weeks. The answer has been the same each time. Supplies are en route. They will arrive before they are needed. The campaign will end before serious cold sets in. He delivers this answer now. Winter equipment is being distributed to forward units. You will receive appropriate gear before temperatures drop significantly. He sees Klaus watching him from the formation. The sergeant's eyes say what his mouth cannot. We both know that's a lie.
Sir.
Steiner returns the look. We tell the men what they need to hear. Sergeant. That's leadership. Or cowardice. Sometimes they look the same. The advance resumes. Frozen ground means vehicles can move at summer speeds again. They cover 30 kilometers the first day. 40 the second. The plan is back on track. Morale improves. Men sing marching songs. The nightmare of the mud season is over. But the cold grows sharper each day. On October 28th, the first snow falls. Just a dusting, melting, as soon as it touches the ground. Pretty. Almost. The men catch flakes on their tongues. like children. It seems harmless. Johann laughs, tries to make a snowball. The snow is too dry. It crumbles in his hands. By November 1st, the temperature at night drops below freezing. Water in canteens turns to ice. Men wake with frost on their blankets. Their summer uniforms, designed for temperate climates, provide almost no insulation. They wrap themselves in whatever they can find. Blankets, tent canvas, curtains torn from abandoned houses. Franz develops chilblains on his hands. The skin cracks and bleeds. Operating the radio becomes agony. He wraps his fingers in strips of cloth, but the metal components still burn with cold when he touches them. He does not complain. Complaining changes nothing. Johann ties straw around his boots, trying to create insulation. It works for a few hours. Then the straw gets wet from melted snow and freezes solid, making the problem worse. Klaus shows him how to stuff newspaper inside his boots instead. It is not much better, but it is something. The first frostbite cases appear on November 5th. 3 men report to the medic with blackened fingertips. The medic examines them and sends them to the field hospital, 10 kilometers behind the lines. They do not return. Steiner learns later that 2 lost fingers to amputation. The third lost his entire hand. He does not share this information with the company. Instead, he writes in his journal. November 5th. First frostbite evacuations. Temperature -8 Celsius. Still no winter clothing arrived. Men improvising with stolen materials. How long can we sustain operations in these conditions? Supply convoys arrive with ammunition, fuel, rations. No winter clothing. Steiner asks the supply officer directly, "Where are the winter uniforms?" "They're coming." "Captain, high priority shipment." "When?" "Soon." Steiner knows what soon means. In military logistics, it means maybe. It means we hope. It means possibly never. On November 8th, Franz receives a transmission from battalion headquarters. Steiner listens through the headset. The message is brief and encoded, but its meaning is clear. The final offensive on Moscow will commence November 15th. All units are to attack regardless of current conditions. Weather is not a factor in strategic planning. Steiner writes the date in his journal, November 15th. 1 week away. He observes his company. 153 men, down from 180. They huddle around inadequate fires, wrapped in blankets and stolen cloth, shivering despite the flames. Their rifles are slick with ice. Their hands shake from cold, not fear. These men are supposed to attack the Soviet capital in 7 days. That night, Klaus comes to Steiner's shelter. They share ersatz coffee made from acorns, a bitter liquid that provides warmth, if not comfort. The men are asking about winter gear.
Sir.
What do you tell them? Same thing you tell them. It's coming. Do you believe that?
Sergeant.
Klaus drinks his coffee. Outside, wind howls through bare trees. Since Martin's death, the sergeant's usual confidence has faded. He looks older. Somehow.
No, sir.
I don't. Neither do I. They sit in silence. The wind fills the space. Their words do not. Finally, Klaus speaks again. Did you know?
Sir.
When they planned this campaign, did they plan for winter? I don't know what they planned.
Sergeant.
I know what they told us. Moscow before the snow falls. Quick campaign. Decisive victory. And if it's not quick, then we adapt. That's what soldiers do. Klaus sets down his cup. I adapted in France.
Sir.
I adapted at Dunkirk. Martin adapted, too, until the mud took him. But this is different. You can't adapt to 40 below zero in a summer uniform. You just die slower. Steiner has no answer. The sergeant is right. They are being asked to do the impossible. But impossible is not an excuse the army accepts. We have our orders.
Yes, sir.
We do. Klaus leaves. Steiner sits alone, listening to the wind. He thinks about Martin, swallowed by mud. He thinks about the men who lost their fingers to frostbite. He thinks about Moscow, so close now, just days away. And he thinks about the calendar. November 8th. Winter in Russia does not truly begin until December. If they take Moscow in the next 3 weeks, they might still avoid the worst of it.
If,
He writes in his journal before sleeping. Temperature minus 12 Celsius. 15 cases of frostbite this week. No winter gear arrived. Battalion confirmed offensive begins 7 days. Supply officer admitted winter uniforms were never manufactured in sufficient quantities. We were always meant to finish before winter, but we did not finish. Now we pay the price. In the morning, new orders arrive. The company will move to forward positions immediately. They are to prepare for the final assault. Moscow is 90 kilometers away. Victory is within reach. Franz logs the transmission. Klaus assembles the men. Johann checks his rifle for the 10th time. And Steiner gazes northeast, toward a city he has never seen, wondering if any of them will live to see it. The last blitzkrieg is about to begin, and winter is waiting. November 15th arrives with a sky the color of old steel. The temperature at dawn is minus 18 Celsius. Steiner's breath freezes in his beard as he studies the forward observation post through binoculars. The men are positioned in a tree line overlooking open ground. Beyond that ground, 3 kilometers distant, the outskirts of Moscow rise like a mirage. Franz stands beside him, radio pack on his back, hands wrapped in layers of cloth that make operating the equipment nearly impossible. The boy's fingers are black at the tips. Frostbite. Early stage. If they retreat to proper medical facilities within 48 hours, he might keep them.
if,
Klaus is with the main body of troops, positioned in hastily dug foxholes that barely scratch the frozen earth. 153 men became 142 in the past week. 11 casualties. 7 from frostbite, severe enough to require evacuation. 3 from accidents, frozen hands dropping grenades, numbed feet stepping into unseen holes. 1 from simple exhaustion. The soldier sat down to rest and never stood up. His heart just stopped. The offensive is supposed to begin at 0800 hours. Steiner received the orders 12 hours ago. Attack along a 5-kilometer front. Penetrate Soviet defenses. Secure the western approach to the city. Link up with other units for the final assault. The orders do not mention that Steiner's company is no longer combat effective by any standard definition. They do not mention that his men can barely hold their rifles. They do not mention that the weapons themselves are freezing solid, that the oil in the MG-34 machine guns has turned to sludge, that firing pins are cracking from the cold. Through the binoculars, Steiner can see the Kremlin. The towers are visible on clear days like this. Red stars on the spires, domes catching the weak November light. The prize they were promised in June. The objective that was supposed to fall in 8 weeks. It has been 20 weeks, and they are still 3 kilometers away.
sir,
Franz's voice is quiet. Steiner lowers the binoculars. Battalion, on the radio. They're confirming attack orders. Steiner takes the headset. The metal is so cold, it burns his ear. The transmission is broken by static, but the message is clear. Commence offensive operations, 0800. No delays. Weather is not a consideration. He hands the headset back to Franz. Acknowledge the order. The boy transmits the confirmation. His hands shake. Not from fear, from cold. Steiner watches him struggle with the equipment and makes a decision he has been avoiding for 3 days. After the attack begins, you will remain at this position. Command post stays here.
sir,
I should be forward with... That's an order.
private,
Franz understands what is not being said. Steiner is protecting him. The radio man is more valuable alive than dead. And forward positions in an attack like this will have a very high mortality rate. The boy does not argue. He has learned that much about war. When an officer gives you a chance to survive,
You take it.
Steiner walks down to the tree line where Klaus has assembled the men. They crouch in groups, trying to share body heat. Their uniforms are a patchwork of stolen civilian clothes,
Blankets.
anything that might provide warmth. Some have wrapped their feet in burlap sacks. Others wear women's scarves around their necks.
They look like beggars.
Not soldiers of the Wehrmacht. Johann sits alone, cleaning his rifle with stiff fingers. The boy has changed in the past 5 months. His face is hollow, the baby fat burned away by hunger and cold. His eyes are older.
He has killed men.
He has watched men die. He watched Martin drown in mud, the excited farm boy who crossed a baker to the border in June is gone. Something harder has taken his place. Klaus sees Steiner approaching and stands. The sergeant's walk is different now.
Stiffer.
His feet wrapped in extra layers of cloth. Steiner knows why. Frostbite in the toes.
Not severe yet.
But getting worse each day. Klaus has not reported to the medic. He knows what the medic will say. Report to field hospital. Amputation. End of combat service. So he wraps his feet and says nothing, and walks on damaged tissue that screams with every step. Company is ready.
Sir.
Steiner observes the men. Ready is not the word he would use.
Present.
Perhaps alive, barely. But ready implies capability, and what he sees before him is a collection of freezing, starving, exhausted soldiers who can barely function. But they are what he has, and orders are orders. The attack begins in 15 minutes. First platoon will advance on the left flank. Second platoon center. Third platoon right. I will be with second platoon. Sergeant Hoffman commands third.
Klaus nodded.
He does not act about the objective, the enemy strength, the support they can expect. He knows there is no good news to share. They will attack because they were told to attack. That is the beginning and end of the tactical situation. One thing, Sergeant.
Sir.
When it starts, keep the men moving. If they stop, if they try to dig in, the cold will kill them faster than the Russians. Klaus understands. Movement generates heat. Stillness is death.
Yes, sir.
Steiner walks back to the command post. Franz has the radio set up on a fallen log. Headset ready. The boy peers at him with a question in his eyes. How many of them will come back? Steiner does not answer, because he does not know. At precisely 0800 hours, German artillery begins the bombardment. 6 guns. All of that the battalion can spare for this sector. The shells scream overhead and impact on Soviet positions 3 kilometers distant. Steiner watches through binoculars. The explosions raise clouds of snow and frozen earth.
Inadequate.
The barrage lasts 10 minutes.
In France.
They would have had an hour of artillery.
Here.
They get 10 minutes. The guns fall silent. Steiner raises his hand. Across the tree line, officers do the same. Then they drop their hands and blow whistles that crack in the cold air. The attack begins. 142 men rise from the tree line and advance across open ground toward Moscow. They move in extended formation, spacing themselves to minimize casualties from machine gun fire. Their breath comes in clouds. Their boots crunch on frozen snow.
Some stumble.
The cold has stolen their coordination, but they keep moving forward because that is what soldiers do. Steiner walks with second platoon. His pistol is drawn, though he knows it will probably jam if he tries to fire it. The metal is coated in frost. Officers carry pistols, more for morale than practical use. The sight of an armed commander steadies men under fire. The first 200 meters are quiet. The Soviets are holding fire, letting them get closer. Steiner knows this tactic. Wait until the enemy
is committed.
Then open up at close range, where every bullet counts. He has used it himself. At 300 meters, the Soviet machine guns open fire. The sound is distinctive, not the MG-34 as the Germans use, but the rapid hammering of Soviet Maxims and the newer PPSH submachine guns. The Maxims have a slower rate of fire, but utterly reliable. The PPSH fires in furious bursts, and unlike German guns, these weapons function in extreme cold. The Russians designed them for Russian winters.
Men fall, not screaming.
Just dropping silently into the snow. The cold has even stolen the sounds of death. Steiner sees a soldier ahead of him take a round through the chest. The impact spins him around. He sits down carefully, as if resting, and then topples sideways. No cry, no words, just the wet sound of a body hitting frozen ground. Keep moving. Forward. Klaus's voice cuts through the gunfire. The sergeant is on the right flank, pushing his platoon ahead despite the fire. Steiner sees him clearly, moving at a strange, limping run, his damaged feet barely functioning. But he does not slow down. Second platoon reaches a small depression in the ground. Steiner orders them down. They have advanced 400 meters. The Soviet positions are still 2.5 kilometers away. At this rate, with this level of fire, they will never reach the objective. He keys his radio. Franz, contact battalion. Request artillery support on coordinates.
Sir.
The radio's frozen. Steiner glances at his radio man. Franz is manipulating the controls frantically. His wrapped hands fumble with dials and switches. But the equipment is dead.
The cold has killed it.
Can you repair it?
I don't know. Sir.
The battery? Everything's frozen.
Never mind.
Stay here. Steiner crawls to the edge of the depression and assesses the situation. First platoon on the left has stalled under heavy fire. Third platoon on the right? Klaus's unit is still advancing but taking casualties. Second platoon is pinned down. The attack is failing. He can see it happening. In France, he would call for armor support, air strikes, reinforcements. Here, there is nothing. Just frozen men with frozen weapons attacking an enemy that is warm and well supplied and fighting on their own ground. A soldier near Steiner tries to fire his rifle. He pulls the trigger. Nothing happens. The firing pin has frozen. He curses, tries to work the bulge. It is stuck solid. Frost has seized the mechanism. The rifle is now a club. He throws it aside in frustration and draws his bayonet instead. A blade, at least, does not freeze. This is happening across the entire company. Weapons failing, men dying, the cold taking its share before the bullets can. Steiner makes a decision. He blows his whistle 3 times. The signal for general withdrawal. Across the line, other officers hear and repeat the signal. The attack has lasted 23 minutes. They have advanced 400 meters and lost 41 men. The survivors pull back toward the tree line. Some carry wounded. Others crawl. Johann is helping a soldier with a leg wound. The farm boy's face set in concentration. Not panic, just grim determination. Klaus's platoon is last to withdraw. The sergeant provides covering fire with one of the few machine guns still functioning. Then he pulls back, limping badly now, leaving bloody footprints in the snow. They reach the tree line. Steiner counts heads. 101? 41 casualties. Nearly a third of his strength gone in less than half an hour. And they never even reached the first Soviet trench line. Franz has the radio working again. He somehow got the battery warm enough to function by holding it against his body. Battalion is asking for status report.
Sir.
Steiner takes the headset. Captain Steiner. Attack repulsed. Heavy casualties. Request permission to consolidate position and reassess. The reply takes 3 minutes.
When it comes.
The voice is cold and bureaucratic. Permission denied. All units will renew attack at 1400 hours. Moscow offensive must continue. Steiner closes his eyes. He has been a soldier for 24 years. He has followed orders that he disagreed with, orders that he knew were mistakes, orders that cost lives, but he has always followed them. Because that is what officers do. That is the foundation of military discipline. But this order is not just a mistake. It is murder. He opens his eyes and makes a decision that will define the rest of his life.
Sir.
Franz is watching him. The boy knows something is wrong. Acknowledge the order. Tell them we will attack at 1400. As ordered. Franz transmits. Steiner removes the headset and walks to where Klaus is sitting, wrapping fresh cloth around his feet. The sergeant's socks are soaked with blood. Frostbite has progressed to the point where his tissue is dying. Every step tears the flesh. The smell of gangrene is faint but unmistakable.
Sergeant.
Report to the medic.
Klaus looks up.
His face shows pain he can no longer hide.
Sir. If I report,
they'll send me to field hospital. Amputation.
End of service. That's correct.
I'd prefer to stay with the company.
Sir.
Steiner crouches down beside him.
Klaus.
Your feet are gangrenous.
You can smell it. I can smell it.
If you don't get treatment, you'll be dead in a week.
Maybe less.
The sergeant wraps another layer of cloth around his ruined feet. Wincing, then I'll stay a week.
Sir.
We attack again in 4 hours. The company needs every man. You can't even walk properly. I can walk well enough, and I can shoot. That's all that matters. Steiner knows he should order Klaus to the hospital, should physically have him carried there if necessary. But he also knows the sergeant is right. They are so undermanned that every soldier counts, even one who can barely stand. He makes a calculation, a cold, tactical calculation that will haunt him later. After today's attack, you report to the medic. That's an order you will follow. Klaus nods slowly.
Yes, sir.
After today. They both know what this means. Klaus will fight one more battle on dying feet, one more attack. Then, if he survives, he will accept treatment. It is a compromise between duty and survival, and it costs them both something to make it. The afternoon passes slowly. Men try to eat frozen rations, try to warm themselves, try to load weapons that may or may not function. Johann sits apart from the others, staring at nothing. Steiner approaches him. Are you injured?
Private.
No, sir. Then why aren't you with your squad?
Johann looks up.
His eyes are different.
Empty somehow. Sir.
I killed a man this morning. Shot him as he ran. He fell and didn't move. I saw his face before we pulled back. He was my age. Maybe younger. That's war.
Soldier. Is it? Sir.
Because it doesn't feel like war. It feels like murder. We're attacking men who are just defending their own country. We're the invaders. What are we even doing here? Steiner has no answer to this. The question is too large, too philosophical for a frozen battlefield. So he gives the only answer an officer can give. We're following orders. That's what soldiers do. The why is not our concern. Johann nods, but does not look convinced. The boy is losing something. Not his courage, not his obedience, but his belief that any of this means something. That is a more dangerous loss than Steiner wants to admit. At 13:30 hours, the second attack begins. They advance with 94 men now. 7 wounded from the morning attack have been evacuated. They push forward across the same ground, past their own dead from earlier. The bodies are already frozen solid. This time, they make it 200 meters before Soviet fire stops them. Johann is hit in the throat by a burst from a PPSH submachine gun. The impact throws him backward. He lands on his back in the snow, hands clutching at the wound. Blood sprays between his fingers. Bright red against white snow, freezing even as it falls. Klaus sees it happen. He is 15 meters away, moving forward with 3rd Platoon, despite his ruined feet. He sees the boy go down, sees the arterial spray, knows immediately that Johann is dead or dying. He does not stop, does not call for a medic, just keeps advancing, because that is what the situation requires. Because stopping means everyone dies. Johann drowns in his own blood in approximately 70 seconds. He tries to speak, but only gurgles come out. His hands weaken. His eyes find the sky. They stay open, staring at nothing. As the light leaves them, he is 19 years old. He has been a soldier for 6 months and 11 days. He will never return to his family's farm in Bavaria. The attack collapses after 18 minutes. Steiner orders withdrawal. They pull back, with 68 combat-effective soldiers remaining, 26 more casualties. More than a quarter of their morning strength. Franz does not see Johann die. He is at the command post, trying to keep the radio functional. But he hears the casualty reports as they come in. Hears the names. Here's Johann listed among the dead. The boy sets down the headset. His face goes blank. He does not cry, does not speak, just sits there, staring at nothing, processing the loss of someone he knew, someone he ate with, marched with, talked to about home. That evening, Steiner receives a new message. The Moscow offensive is suspended due to operational difficulties and unexpected resistance. All units are to hold current positions. Await further orders. Steiner reads the message 3 times. Suspended, not canceled. They will try again. Eventually, when conditions improve, when reinforcements arrive, when Moscow's defenses weaken, he crumples the message and throws it into the corner of his shelter. None of those things will happen. Moscow will not fall. The offensive has failed. They are too weak, too cold, too broken, and winter has barely begun. That night, Klaus comes to see him. The sergeant can no longer walk without assistance. 2 soldiers help him into the shelter and then leave. I need to report to the medic now.
Sir, I know.
My feet are gone. The smell is worse. I can see black spreading up to my ankles. Steiner can smell it too. The sweet, rotten smell of necrotic tissue. Report at 0600 tomorrow. Klaus shakes his head slowly.
Sir,
I'm reporting that I refuse treatment. Steiner stares at him. That's not your decision to make.
Sergeant,
With respect,
sir, it is
my feet, my choice. If you don't get treatment, you'll be dead in days. The infection will spread. Sepsis, organ failure. It's not a pleasant death. Klaus smiles. It is a terrible smile. All teeth and no humor. Nothing about this is pleasant.
Sir,
But I'm not getting my feet cut off just to live as a cripple. I'd rather die whole. Steiner feels something break in at him. He has followed orders all his life. He has demanded obedience from his men. But here is Klaus, refusing a direct order to save his own life. And Steiner cannot find it in himself to force the issue. I should have you arrested, court-martialed. Yes, sir. You should, instead. I'm going to pretend we didn't have this conversation. You will report to the medic when you're ready. If you're ever ready. Klaus's smile softens into something almost genuine. Thank you.
sir,
Don't thank me.
Sergeant.
I'm condemning you to death by allowing this.
No, sir.
You're respecting my choice. There's a difference. Klaus leaves, supported by his helpers. Steiner sits alone, knowing he has just made a decision that violates every rule he was trained to follow. But he is too tired to care anymore, too tired to enforce discipline. he no longer believes in. He writes in his journal that night, November 15th, 2 attacks, 68 effectives remaining from 142 this morning. Johann Schmidt killed in action. Klaus Hoffmann refuses medical treatment for gangrene. The offensive is suspended. We have failed to take Moscow. I have failed these men. The days blur together. November becomes a litany of suffering. The temperature drops steadily. -20, -25, -30. The cold is a living thing, hunting them. More men develop frostbite. Fingers blacken and fall off. Toes turn to ice inside frozen boots. Faces develop patches of dead, gray skin. The field hospital overflows. The medic runs out of supplies. Men die from treatable conditions because there is nothing to treat them with. Klaus deteriorates. The gangrene spreads to his ankles, then his shins. He can no longer stand. He crawls when he needs to move. His face is gray with fever. But he refuses evacuation, refuses treatment, just stays with the company, sitting by fires and cleaning weapons he can no longer use. Franz's frostbite worsens. The blackness spreads from his fingertips to his hands. He can barely operate the radio anymore. His touch is too clumsy, too painful, but he tries. Every day, he tries. On December 2nd, the temperature drops to -35 Celsius. The cold is beyond anything Steiner has experienced. Breathing hurts. The air cuts like glass. Men wrap cloth around their faces, but frost forms on the fabric and freezes to their skin. That morning, Franz goes on a routine patrol near Soviet positions. They are searching for supply drops that sometimes go astray. What they find instead is a Soviet soldier frozen against a tree, recently dead. Maybe yesterday? Maybe last night. The body wears a thick winter coat, padded, quilted, designed specifically for this climate. Franz stares at it for a long time. His hands are black now. He cannot feel his fingers anymore. The frostbite has progressed to a stage where amputation is inevitable. The only question is how much they will have to take. The dead do not need warmth. He kneels. His ruined hands struggle with the frozen buttons of the Soviet coat. The coat resists. The body is rigid, frozen in position. He pulls harder. The soldier's head lolls sideways. The face is young, very young, maybe 20, eyes open, staring at nothing. Franz whispers something. An apology. A prayer. He cannot tell which. The coat comes free finally. It takes 5 more minutes of pulling, twisting, breaking frozen limbs to remove it. Inside the pocket, his numb fingers find paper. A letter. He unfolds it with hands that barely work. Cyrillic script he cannot read. But he recognizes the handwriting. Feminine, careful. Loops and curves that speak of time and care. A wife's letter, or a mother's. He reads words he cannot understand, but he understands their meaning. Someone loved this man. Someone waited for him. Someone wrote him letters he will never answer. Franz vomits into the snow. The coat falls from his hands. He stays there on his knees, retching, until there is nothing left in his stomach. Then he picks up the coat again, studies it, the warmth it promises, the survival it offers. He puts it on. It is warm. Immediately, wonderfully warm. The first real warmth he has felt in weeks. His body responds to it, shivering violently. As circulation improves, the warmth feels like betrayal, like theft, like murder. But it also feels like survival. Franz folds the letter carefully and places it back in the pocket. He cannot return it to its sender. Cannot tell her that her husband or son or brother is dead. But he can keep it. A small acknowledgement that this coat came at a price. That someone paid for Franz's warmth with their life. When he returns to camp, Steiner sees the Soviet coat immediately. The captain's eyes meet Franz's. No words are spoken. Steiner nods once, A gesture that contains understanding? Absolution. Shared guilt. Klaus would have made a joke about it 6 months ago. Some sardonic comment about fashion or enemy equipment. But Klaus is delirious with fever now, barely conscious. His feet are black to the knees. The gangrene has won. That night, Franz sleeps warm for the first time in weeks. He dreams of the Soviet soldier's wife, writing letters to a dead man. Letters that will never be answered. In the dream, she looks like Franz's own mother. When he wakes, his cheeks are wet. The tears have frozen to his face. He writes in his own journal, a habit he started copying from Steiner. December 2nd. I stole a coat from a dead Russian today. He was younger than me. I found a letter from someone who loved him. I kept it. I don't know why. Maybe to remember that the dead were once alive. That they had people waiting for them, just like we do. If anyone is still waiting for us. The first week of December passes in a haze of cold and hunger. Supply convoys arrive sporadically. The food they bring is frozen solid. Men chip at it with knives. Put pieces in their mouths to thaw with body heat. It tastes like cardboard and ice. They eat it anyway. Klaus is dying.
Everyone knows it.
The fever burns through him. He talks to people who are not there. Calls for Martin. Asks his wife questions. Sometimes he is lucid. Those moments are worse than the delirium. When he is lucid, he knows what is happening to him. Knows he is dying slowly from his own refusal. Steiner sits with him during one of these lucid moments. Do you regret it?
Sergeant.
Your choice. Klaus thinks about this. His face is skeletal now. The fever has consumed what little fat remained.
No, sir.
I don't regret it. Better to die whole than live in pieces. That's pride talking. Maybe it's the last bit of control I have. Everything else has been taken from us. Our mission failed. Our men are dead. Our bodies are breaking. But this choice was mine. That means something. Steiner has no answer to this. Perhaps Klaus is right. Perhaps choosing how you die is the final dignity. Or perhaps it is just stubbornness. Either way, the result is the same. Did you tell your wife you thought of her at the end? I'm not at the end yet.
Sir.
But you will be soon. Klaus nods slowly. Then yes. Tell her I thought of her. Tell her I chose this. That it wasn't random. That I died making a choice. Not just following orders. Tell her that matters.
I will.
Steiner knows he is lying. He will never contact Klaus's wife. Will never tell her that her husband chose to die from gangrene rather than accept amputation. Will never explain that pride killed him as surely as the Russian cold. Instead, he will write a letter saying Klaus died heroically in combat.
Quick.
Painless. With honor. All the comfortable lies that help widows sleep at night. On December 5th, everything changes. The attack comes at 5 in the morning. Soviet artillery begins without warning. The barrage is massive, concentrated, professional. Shells impact across Steiner's positions with methodical precision. This is not random harassment fire. This is preparatory bombardment. An attack is coming. Steiner scrambles out of his shelter as explosions tear apart the tree line. Franz is already at the radio, but the equipment is dead again, frozen solid overnight. He cannot call for support, cannot report the contact. The cold has severed their communications once more. Steiner runs to the forward positions. Men are cowering in foxholes as shells explode around them. The barrage walks back and forth across their line with terrible precision. Soviet forward observers have mapped their positions perfectly. Over the past weeks, a shell lands 8 meters away. The explosion throws Steiner to the ground. His ears ring. He tastes blood. Gets up. Keeps moving. This is what officers do. They move forward when others cannot. He finds 3rd Platoon's position, or what remains of it. A direct hit has obliterated the main bunker. Bodies are scattered, some moving, most not. He counts 9 dead instantly, 4 wounded. The platoon that was already reduced to 13 is now 4 combat-effective soldiers. The artillery stops after 35 minutes. In the sudden silence, Steiner can hear a new sound. Engines, diesel engines, many of them, and something else. A mechanical creaking. It treads on frozen ground. Tanks. He peers toward the Soviet positions through the smoke and snow. Movement. Lots of movement. Infantry, advancing in white winter camouflage. They blend into the snow almost perfectly. Ghosts in a white hell. Behind them, the distinctive silhouettes of T-34 tanks, their wide treads designed for snow, their engines running smoothly in cold that kills German machinery. Steiner makes a quick estimate. He is facing at least a battalion-strength assault. 500 men, supported by armor, against his 54 defenders with frozen weapons and no anti-tank capability. The tactical situation is hopeless. He runs back to the command post. Franz has the radio working again. Finally, holding the battery against his body to warm it. Contact battalion. Tell them, we are under attack by superior forces with armor support. Request immediate reinforcement. The reply comes back in second. No support available. All units heavily engaged. Hold position. Reinforcements en route. 6 hours. 6 hours. They will be overrun in 90 minutes. Probably less. Steiner looks at Franz. The boy understands completely. The dead look in his eyes says everything.
What do we do? Sir?
We hold as long as we can. Then we withdraw.
But the orders?
Steiner cuts him off. Damn the orders. I won't sacrifice this company for a position that doesn't matter. When I give the signal, we fall back. Understood. It is the first time Steiner has openly defied a direct order. Franz stares at him, then nods slowly. Understood.
Sir.
The attack hits their line at 0540. Soviet infantry emerge from the snow like specters. They move on skis, fast and silent, gliding through deep snow that would bog down anyone on foot. They carry PPI submachine guns that function perfectly in the cold, spitting bullets in rapid bursts. Behind them, the T-34s advance, turrets traversing, searching for targets. Steiner's men open fire. The MG-34 machine guns jam almost immediately. The cold has seized their mechanisms. Rifles fire sporadically. Some work. Most don't. The cold has turned their weapons into clubs. The Soviets keep coming. They do not slow. They have been waiting for this moment, waiting for the Germans to freeze, to weaken, to become vulnerable. Now they exploit that vulnerability with professional ruthlessness. The first T-34 breaks through the German line. Infantry scatters. The tank crushes a foxhole, grinding men into the frozen earth. Steiner sees it happen, sees soldiers disappear under the treads, hears their screams cut short by metal and ice. He draws his pistol and fires at Soviet infantry. The gun jams after 2 shots, the firing pin cracked by cold. He throws it aside and picks up a rifle from a dead soldier. Fires. The rifle works. He shoots a Soviet soldier at 12 meters. The man falls. Another takes his place immediately. The line is collapsing. Steiner can see it happening in real time. 3rd platoon is being overrun. 2nd platoon is falling back without orders. Individual soldiers making the decision to run rather than die. 1st platoon has ceased to exist as a coherent unit. Klaus is in his shelter when the attack begins. He has been there for days, unable to walk, delirious with fever. But the sound of battle wakes something in him, some final reserve of will. He drags himself to the entrance. His legs are useless, both limbs black to the knees, dead tissue that serves no purpose except to poison his blood. He pulls himself forward with his arms, leaving a trail of blood and pus in the snow. Someone has left a Soviet PPSH submachine gun near his shelter, probably taken from a dead enemy weeks ago. Klaus reaches it, checks the magazine. Full. The weapon is cold but functional. Soviet guns work in Soviet weather. He props himself against the shelter wall. Cannot stand. Cannot brace himself properly. But he can sit, and he can aim, and he can fire. Soviet infantry are everywhere now. They move through the German positions, like water through a broken dam. Klaus opens fire. The PPSH bucks in his hands. Bullets spray. Men fall. He reloads. The motion automatic, despite fever and pain. Steiner sees Klaus as he runs past. The sergeant, propped against a wall, firing at advancing enemies. Their eyes meet for a split second. Klaus nods once. Steiner understands. The sergeant is buying time, choosing how he dies, making his last stand on ground he cannot defend, with a body that no longer works, for a cause he no longer believes in. But dying as a soldier, on his own terms, Steiner salutes. Klaus returns it with a blood-stained hand. Then the captain runs, gathering survivors, shouting orders, organizing a fighting withdrawal. Klaus keeps firing. His vision is blurring. The fever is winning. But his hands remember how to reload, how to aim, how to kill. He empties magazine after magazine. Soviets fall. More take their place. A grenade lands near him. He sees it, tries to move. Cannot. His legs do not respond. The explosion is the last thing he hears. Not pain, just a massive sound that swallows everything else. Sergeant Klaus Hoffmann dies at 0600 hours on December 5th, 1941. He is 36 years old. He has served for 15 years. He refused amputation, chose to fight on dying feet, bought his company 90 seconds to withdraw. His body is not recovered. Soviet forces overrun the position minutes after his death. When the snow melts in spring, someone will find a skeleton propped against a burned shelter, surrounded by empty shell casings. No one will know his name. Steiner gathers the survivors. 27 men. That is all that remains of his company. 180 became 27 in less than 6 months. They retreat west through the forest. Soviet pursuit close behind. Franz is with them. His face is blank with shock. He saw Klaus's last stand, saw the sergeant die. Another friend gone. Another name for the list of dead. They move west for 2 hours before stopping to count heads and treat wounded. 23 men remain mobile. 4 are wounded but walking. No one is left behind this time because no one can carry anyone. You walk or you die. That is the only rule now. Steiner tries the radio. No response from battalion. The frequency is dead. Either headquarters was destroyed, or they have moved and changed frequencies without informing anyone. He is alone, cut off, commanding 23 frozen, starving, defeated men in the middle of Russia in December. Franz asks the question everyone is thinking. Sir, what do we do now? Steiner looks west, toward Germany, toward home. It is hundreds of kilometers away through Soviet-controlled territory, through winter that shows no sign of ending. But staying here is certain death. We go west. We reach our own lines. We survive. No one mentions the orders to hold position. No one mentions that retreat without authorization is desertion. They are beyond those concerns now. The command structure has collapsed. Every man for himself has become the only strategy that matters. They begin walking. Behind them, the sound of battle fades. Ahead, the snow stretches endlessly. White. Empty. Killing. Steiner's war has changed. He is no longer an officer leading an offensive. He is a survivor, trying to escape. And winter is hunting him. The retreat takes them through a landscape of the dead. Steiner leads 23 men west through snow that reaches their knees. Some of the snow is white. Some of it is stained red or brown, where bodies lie frozen beneath the surface. They walk past equipment abandoned during the advance. Trucks tilted into ditches. Their engines seized solid, tanks with turrets pointed at nothing. Monuments to a failed offensive. Artillery pieces, half buried in drifts, their barrels coated in ice. The cold is beyond anything Steiner has experienced. Minus 43 Celsius. The air burns the lungs. Each breath is agony. Men wrap cloth around their faces. But frost forms on the fabric and freezes to their skin. Some develop frostbite on their cheeks and noses without realizing it. The flesh simply dies while they walk. Franz stays close to Steiner. The boy's hands are wrapped in layers of rags. But Steiner can see the blackness spreading. Frostbite has claimed most of his fingers. The radio man will never operate radio equipment again. Will never play piano. Never write properly. Never do any of the thousand small things that require functional hands. The boy does not complain. Just walks, one foot after another. Breath coming in ragged gasps. Eyes focused on the ground ahead. He wears the Soviet coat he stole. It keeps him warmer than the others. Guilt keeps him colder. On the second day, they find the bodies. The killing ground from their November assault stretches for kilometers. Frozen corpses dot the landscape like strange crops. Some are partially buried by snow. Others stand exposed, preserved perfectly by the cold. They died in every position imaginable. Running, crawling, kneeling. One soldier is frozen in the act of reloading his rifle. Hands gripping the bolt. Face set in concentration. The cold stopped time for him. Steiner recognizes faces. Men from his company, men from other units. The cold has preserved them so well they might be sleeping. Except their eyes are open. Their skin is blue-white. Their bodies are rigid as stone. Franz stops walking. He is staring at something in the snow ahead. Steiner approaches, sees what the boy sees. Johann, the youngest soldier in the company, lies on his back, arms spread wide. The bullet wound in his throat is visible, a dark hole in frozen flesh. His eyes are open, staring at the sky. Snow has drifted across his legs, but his upper body remains exposed. Someone tried to close his eyes, but failed. The eyelids froze open immediately. He looked surprised, as if death caught him in the middle of a thought. His lips are parted slightly, his last breath frozen in his lungs. Franz kneels beside the body. His wrapped hands reach out, but do not touch. Cannot touch. He has no working fingers left to touch with. We should bury him.
Sir.
Steiner studies the ground. Frozen solid, hard as concrete. They have no tools, no time, no energy to spare. Soviet patrols could be anywhere. We can't. I'm sorry. Franz stays kneeling. The other men walk past, averting their eyes. They have seen too many dead. One more body does not register anymore. He was 19.
Sir.
He wanted to go home. He showed me pictures of his family's farm. Said he'd take me there after the war. Said we'd eat real food and sleep in real beds. Steiner pulls Franz to his feet. The boy resists for a moment, then yields. They walk on. Behind them, Johann remains where he fell. There will be no burial, no marker, no one to tell his family exactly where he died. When spring comes and the snow melts, his body will rot into the Russian earth. Anonymous, forgotten. This is what happens to soldiers who die in losing wars. They become part of the landscape, fertilizer for grass that will grow when the world warms again. By the third day, Steiner knows he is dying. The fever started during the previous night. He woke shivering despite being wrapped in 3 blankets stolen from abandoned houses. His head pounds like artillery. His vision blurs at the edges. When he stands,
the world tilts sideways.
Franz notices immediately.
Sir,
You're sick. I'm fine. Keep moving. But he is not fine. By midday, his legs barely hold him. The fever burns through him like fire. Infection from frostbite in his feet, or pneumonia, or exhaustion, or all 3. It does not matter which. The result is the same. His body is giving up. He collapses at 1400 hours. One moment he's walking. The next, his legs simply stop working. He falls face first into the snow. Does not get up. Cannot get up. The world spins. His vision goes dark at the edges. He hears voices. Distant. Muffled. Franz is there immediately. The boy's ruined hands try to turn him over. Other soldiers help. They roll Steiner onto his back. His eyes open. The sky above is gray. Endless. Empty. Someone checks his feet. The boots are frozen solid. They pry them off carefully. Both feet are black. Completely black. From toes to ankles. Gangrene. The same condition that killed Klaus, except Klaus refused treatment. Steiner never had the chance. He's got what the sergeant had. One soldier says, "It's in his blood now." Sepsis. Franz's face appears above Steiner. The boy looks terrified but determined. We need to move him. We can make a litter. Leave me. Steiner's voice is weak. The words come out slurred. The fever has him now. Full possession.
sir,
We're not leaving you. That's an order. Private. Franz looks at the other men. 19 survivors. All watching. All waiting to see what the young radio man will do. They will follow his decision. Franz has led them this far, kept them together. When the command structure collapsed, they trust him now more than any rank or insignia. The boy makes a decision.
no, sir,
It is the same insubordination Klaus showed, the same refusal Steiner himself displayed when he ordered retreat, despite orders to hold. Orders have meaning only when they make sense, and this order makes no sense at all. We make a litter. 4 men carry in shifts. We move slower, but we move together. The men begin gathering materials. Branches, blankets, ropes scavenged from abandoned equipment. They construct a crude stretcher in 15 minutes. Lift Steiner onto it. The movement sends waves of agony through his body. He loses consciousness. When he wakes, he is being carried. The stretcher sways with each step. Above him, the sky is darker. Evening approaching. How long was he unconscious? Hours. Days. Time has become fluid. Franz walks beside the stretcher. The boy's face is drawn, exhausted, but his eyes are clear, determined. Where are we? Still heading west.
sir,
Maybe 25 kilometers from German lines, if the lines are still there. Put me down. You're moving too slowly. The cold will kill you. Franz ignores him. Steiner tries to sit up. Hands push him back down. Not roughly. Firmly. With care. Klaus disobeyed you. Franz says quietly. Now I do too.
sir,
Call it even. Steiner realizes what the boy is doing. Repeating Klaus's words. Honoring the sergeant's sacrifice by saving Steiner. The way Klaus could not be saved. It is a debt being repaid. A circle being closed. He stops arguing. Lies back on the stretcher. Lets the men carry him. What else can he do? His body has betrayed him. His feet are dead. His fever burns. He cannot walk. Cannot lead. Can only be carried, like cargo, through the frozen wasteland. The fever dreams begin that night. Steiner sees Klaus walking on feet he no longer has. Sees Martin drowning in mud again and again in an endless loop. Sees Johann running through snow, laughing. Whole! Alive. Sees his wife in Munich, sitting at a table. reading a letter that will never arrive, because the man who would write it is dying in Russia. The dreams blend with reality. He cannot tell which is which. Sometimes he is in the hearing room in Berlin, answering questions. Sometimes he is back in June, crossing the border, confident and young. Sometimes he is nowhere at all, just floating in gray space where time has no meaning. He wakes occasionally. Franz is always there. The boy gives him water from a canteen, holding it to Steiner's lips with his wrapped, useless hands. The water is half frozen. It hurts going down. Steiner drinks anyway. The body wants to survive even when the mind has given up.
Other times you wake up
To find the men arguing in low voices. They are debating whether to continue carrying him. Some say he is slowing them down too much, that they should leave him with whatever food they can spare and save themselves. Others say they will not abandon their captain, that officers do not leave men behind, and men do not leave officers behind. That is the code. That is what separates soldiers from deserters. Franz settles the arguments every time. His voice is quiet but final. We carry him. Anyone who wants to leave can leave. But the captain comes with us. No one leaves. They continue west, carrying their dying officer through the frozen hell, because it is the right thing to do. Because in a war without meaning, small acts of loyalty are all that remain. On the 5th day of retreat, they see German positions, a forward outpost, hastily constructed bunkers and trenches, a handful of men in gray uniforms watching the east with dead eyes. When Steiner's group approaches, the sentry stays whoop-on. Then they see the stretcher, the condition of the men. They lower their rifles. Who are you? Franz speaks. His voice is hoarse from cold and exhaustion. 2nd Battalion, 12th Infantry Regiment. Captain Steiner's company. We were overrun at Moscow. We need immediate medical assistance. The sentry stares. 2nd Battalion was supposed to be holding the Moscow approach. These frozen scarecrows are what remains of an entire company. How many in your unit? 19. We started with 180. The sentry absorbs this. The mathematics of failure. Then he turns and shouts to someone behind the line. Within minutes, medics arrive with proper stretchers. They load Steiner carefully. He is unconscious again, muttering in fever dreams, calling names of dead men. Franz collapses as soon as they reach the aid station, his body finally giving up now that safety is achieved. The medics catch him before he hits the ground. They lay him on a stretcher beside Steiner. The boy's eyes close. He sleeps for the first time in 5 days. The other 18 men follow, some walking, some crawling, all alive. For now, 4 will die of their wounds and infections over the next 72 hours, their bodies simply giving up after pushing beyond all reasonable limits. But 19 made it to the lines. 19 out of 180 survivors. Steiner wakes in a field hospital 3 days later. The room is warm. Actual warmth from a coal stove burning in the corner. The heat is almost painful. After so long in the cold, his body does not know how to process it. A nurse stands over him, checking his pulse. When she sees his eyes open, she smiles. It is the first genuine smile Steiner has seen in months. It looks strange on a human face. Welcome back. Captain, you gave us quite a scare. Where am I? Field hospital. 18 kilometers behind the front. You were brought in with severe fever, gangrene, and frostbite. The surgeon operated yesterday morning. Operated. The word Steiner knows what it means before he looks. He has seen it too many times. He glances down at where his feet should be. The blanket is flat past his ankles. Both feet. Yes. I'm sorry. Below the ankle, the gangrene had spread too far. Another day, and it would have killed you. He lies back, stares at the ceiling, counts the cracks in the plaster. 37 cracks. He counts them 3 times to be sure. Anything to avoid thinking about what he has lost. There are others from my company.
Where are they?
Most are being treated in the other ward. Frostbite injuries. Primarily, 4 died from pneumonia and sepsis complications. The rest are stable. Private Weber, the radio man. Where is he? The nurse hesitates. That tiny pause tells him everything. He lost his right hand. Complete amputation at the wrist. The surgeon tried to save it, but the gangrene was too advanced. We're still trying to save fingers on his left hand, but it's not looking good. Steiner closes his eyes. Franz's pianist hands. The boy's gentle touch on radio equipment. His careful way of handling delicate instruments. Gone. The boy is 22 years old, and he will spend the rest of his life disabled. For what? For Moscow, that was never taken. For an offensive that failed before it began. For orders that should never have been given by commanders who did not understand what they were asking. The nurse leaves. Steiner lies alone, feeling the phantom pain in feet that no longer exists. The nerves do not know they are gone. They scream messages to a brain that cannot accept the truth. Outside, he can hear the distant sound of artillery. The war continues. Men still die. But his war is over. The surgeon's saw ended it. Franz visits him 2 days later. The boy's right arm ends in a bandaged stump. His left hand has 3 fingers remaining. Thumb, index, middle. The ring and pinky fingers were amputated. The hand looks alien now. Incomplete. Wrong. They sit in silence for several minutes. What is there to say? They both lost pieces of themselves in Russia. No words can return what was taken. No explanation can make it meaningful. Finally, Franz speaks. 19 of us made it.
Sir.
15 are stable enough to evacuate to Germany within the week. 4 died in the hospital. Pneumonia and infection. So 15 survivors. Out of 180.
Yes, sir.
Steiner does the mathematics one more time, hoping somehow the numbers will change. They do not. An 83% casualty rate, higher than most units suffered in the entire war. His company was destroyed more thoroughly than if it had fought in a single catastrophic battle. They were ground down slowly, killed by cold and hunger and exhaustion, as much as by enemy fire. Have you heard from battalion? Franz shakes his head. Battalion headquarters was overrun during the Soviet offensive. Most of the officers are dead or missing. Division is trying to reorganize, but it's chaos. Nobody knows who's in command anymore. The whole Moscow front collapsed. So we're just casualties in a system that no longer exists.
I suppose... Guitar?
Sir.
They sit in silence again. Outside, snow falls. Always snow. Endless Russian snow that buries everything. Buries armies. Buries plans. Buries the myth of German invincibility. I'm sorry. Franz. The boy looks at him. Confused. For what?
Sir.
For your hands. For Johann.
For Klaus.
For all of it. I led you into that nightmare, and I couldn't lead you out whole. Franz considers this. His remaining fingers touch the bandaged stump of his right hand, test the edges of his loss. You got us out.
Sir.
15 of us are alive because you made decisions. Good decisions. Hard decisions. Klaus chose to stay and fight. That was his choice, not yours. Johann was killed in combat. That's war. My hands, they're gone, but I'm alive. That's more than most can say. It's not enough. It's all there is.
Sir.
The boy stands to leave. At the door, he pauses. They're sending me home. Next week. Back to Munich. I don't know what I'll do there. Can't play piano. Can't work a radio. Can't do much of anything with 3 fingers. You'll find something. You're resilient. You survived Russia. You can survive anything. Franz smiles without humor. We're all resilient now.
Sir.
Russia made sure of that. Broke us down and rebuilt us into something harder. Whether that's better or worse, I don't know yet. He leaves. Steiner lies alone, staring at the ceiling, counting in the cost of resilience. Klaus is dead. Johann is dead. Martin is dead. 161 men from his company are dead or permanently disabled.
And for what?
For a city they never took. For a campaign that failed. For orders based on lies and assumptions and arrogance. Over the next 2 weeks, Steiner receives visits from the other survivors. Men he led through hell. They come one by one, awkward in their gratitude, uncertain what to say to an officer who saved them by disobeying orders. One soldier, missing both hands to frostbite, thanks Steiner for ordering the retreat. Says he would be dead if they had stayed. Another, blinded by snow and cold, sits beside Steiner's bed and talks about going home. He will never see his family again, but at least he will hear their voices. A third soldier, whole except up for missing toes, asks Steiner a question.
Sir.
Do you think we did the right thing? Retreating when we were ordered to hold. Steiner thinks about this carefully. The question has weight, implications, consequences. I think we did what soldiers do when the orders make no sense. We survived. Sometimes that's the only right thing left. The soldier nods and leaves. Steiner wonders if he told the truth, or just another comfortable lie. The difference is becoming harder to see. 6 weeks later, Steiner sits in the hearing room in Berlin. Spring has arrived. The snow is melting across Europe. Outside the windows, life continues. People walk streets. Children play in parks. The world moves on, as if nothing has happened. But something did happen. An entire army was broken on the Russian winter. Hundreds of thousands dead. Equipment losses beyond calculation. The myth of German invincibility shattered on frozen fields outside Moscow. And now, the survivors are being called to account. The tribunal has been questioning Steiner for 2 hours. They want to know everything. How did the offensive fail? What went wrong tactically? Could different decisions have changed the outcome? Did the supply failures doom the campaign? Or was it strategic miscalculation? Steiner has answered every question with clinical precision. The supply failures, the weather conditions, the underestimation of Soviet strengths, the equipment malfunctions, the inadequate preparation for winter warfare. He has provided them with data, statistics, tactical analyses, everything except the truth that matters. But now, one of the tribunal members asks a different question. The old general, with Iron Cross ribbons from the previous war, the one who fought in Russia in 1918, the one who understands. Captain Steiner, in your professional opinion, could the offensive have succeeded? If supplies had arrived, if winter gear had been distributed, if conditions had been different? Steiner considers the question carefully. The honest answer will end his career, will destroy whatever reputation he has left, will mark him as a defeatist in an army that does not tolerate doubt. He gives it anyway. No. General, the offensive could not have succeeded, not because of supply failures or equipment malfunctions. Those were symptoms, not causes. The fundamental premise was flawed from the beginning. Explain. We assumed Russia would collapse like France, that Soviet morale would break, that their infrastructure would fail under pressure. We assumed we could fight a summer campaign and win before winter arrived. Every one of those assumptions was wrong. The tribunal members shift in their seats. This is not what they wanted to hear. They wanted tactical failures, supply chain problems, things that could be fixed, not fundamental strategic miscalculation. Steiner continues, his voice steady. Russia is not France. The distances are too vast. The population too large. The weather too extreme. The resolve too deep. We advanced 1,000 kilometers and barely scratched the surface of their territory. We destroyed entire Soviet armies, and they raised new ones. We reached the outskirts of Moscow and could go no further. We believed we were fighting an enemy. We were fighting a continent. The tribunal is silent. Then a younger officer speaks, someone who has never seen the Eastern Front, someone who still believes in the myth. Are you saying the war cannot be won?
Captain?
I am saying Moscow cannot be taken.
Not in winter.
Perhaps not at all. Not by an army designed for European warfare, trying to operate in Asian conditions. That's defeatism. Steiner meets his eyes without flinching. That's reality.
Major.
161 men from my company are dead or permanently disabled. They died following orders based on false assumptions. You asked for my professional opinion.
That's it.
The room goes quiet. No one speaks. The old general leans forward slowly. These 161 men, did they die well? It is a loaded question. A trap. Did they die with honor? Did their sacrifice mean something? Were they heroes? Steiner could lie, could tell them. His men died gloriously, fighting to the last, embracing death for the fatherland. It is what the tribunal wants to hear. What would comfort the families? What would justify the losses and validate the decisions that led to them? But he has told too many lies, carried too many false promises to dying men. He is done with lies. They died badly.
General.
They froze to death in foxholes. They drowned in mud. They lost limbs to frostbite and died screaming during amputations without morphine. They were killed by an enemy they never saw because their weapons froze in their hands. They died slowly, miserably, far from home, calling for mothers and wives who could not hear them. There was no glory, just suffering. The younger officer stands abruptly. That's enough.
Captain.
You're dismissed. But the old general raises his hand, a gesture of command that stops everyone. Let him finish. Steiner continues, his voice steady and clear. But they died as soldiers, following orders even when the orders made no sense, maintaining discipline when everything around them collapsed.
My sergeant.
Klaus Hoffmann stayed behind to buy us time when he could no longer walk. He died fighting on feet that were already dead. Private Johann Schmidt was killed in his first real assault, advancing on Moscow despite frozen weapons and impossible odds. These men did not die well, but they died as they were trained to die, obeying commands, trusting their officers, believing the mission mattered. He pauses, then adds quietly, that is worth something. Even if the mission was doomed, even if their sacrifice achieved nothing, they remain soldiers to the end. That means something. The old general nods slowly. He understands. The younger officers do not. They will learn someday, if they survive long enough. War teaches everyone eventually. What is their sacrifice worth?
Captain.
Steiner looks at the stumps where his feet used to be, thinks about Franz's missing hand, about Klaus dying alone, about Johann's frozen body still lying somewhere in Russian snow. I don't know anymore.
General.
I used to think I knew. I believed in duty, in honor, in following orders. But I don't know what any of that means now. I know only that good men died for bad reasons, and I led them there. The hearing concludes. Steiner is dismissed with full honors. No court-martial, no discipline. His testimony will be filed in some archive where no one will ever read it. The war will continue. Other offensives will be planned. Other companies will be destroyed. The machine will keep running until it can run no more. That evening, Steiner sits in his temporary quarters. A stack of papers sits before him. 161 sheets, one for each dead man from his company. Forms and templates provided by the Wehrmacht for letters of condolence. He has been assigned the task of writing to their families official letters about sacrifice and honor, and the glory of dying for the fatherland. The Wehrmacht provides helpful templates, standard phrases that can be customized with names and dates. Dear Frau, dear Herr, it is my painful duty to inform you. Your son served with distinction. He died quickly and without suffering. His sacrifice was not in vain. All lies. He begins with the first name. Private Hans Albrecht, age 20. Killed November 17th by machine gun fire during the Moscow offensive. Dear Frau Albrecht, it is my painful duty to inform you that your son Hans was killed in action on November 17th, 1941, while serving his country with distinction. He died quickly and without suffering, struck down while advancing upon the enemy. His bravery in the face of danger was an inspiration to his comrades. He served with honor and gave his life for the fatherland. You may take comfort in knowing that his sacrifice was not in vain. With deepest sympathies, Captain Victor Steiner, he sets down the pen, reads what he has written. Every word is a lie. Hans Albrecht was not killed quickly. He was shot in the stomach and died over the course of 6 hours, screaming for his mother, begging for morphine that did not exist. There was no glory, no inspiration, just a boy bleeding to death in the snow, asking why. But Steiner cannot write that truth, cannot tell Frau Albrecht that her son's final hours were agony, cannot explain that his sacrifice achieved nothing, that the offensive failed, that Hans died for a plan that was doomed from the start. So he lies, writes the same comforting falsehoods that officers have written to grieving families for centuries. Quick death, no suffering, died with honor, sacrifice not in vain. The same lies in different combinations, personalized with names and dates and locations, but always the same fundamental untruth. He moves to the next letter. Private Eric Bauer, age 23.
Froze to death on night of December 3rd while on sentry duty.
Dear Herr Bauer, it is my painful duty to inform you that your son Eric was killed in action on December 3rd, 1941, while serving his country with distinction. He died at his post, maintaining vigilance to the end, ensuring the safety of his comrades. His dedication to duty was exemplary. You may take pride in his service. The same template, the same lies. He does not mention that Eric fell asleep on watch because he had not slept in 3 days, that he froze to death because there was no shelter, no warm clothing, no relief, that his body was found rigid, eyes open, hands still gripping his rifle. A monument to failed logistics and impossible demands. Letter after letter, name after name, each one a variation on the same theme. Quick death, no suffering, honor, glory, sacrifice. By midnight, he has written 50 letters. His hand cramps from gripping the pen. The stumps where his feet used to be throb with phantom pain. He wants to stop, wants to throw the pen aside and walk away. But he cannot walk, and he cannot stop. These letters are the last duty he owes these men, the final service an officer provides. So he continues. Corporal Martin Engel, age 26, drowned in mud. October 14th, while attempting to rescue equipment. Dear Frau Engel, it is my painful duty to inform you that your husband Martin was killed in action on October 14th, 1941, while serving his country with distinction. He died attempting to save vital equipment necessary for the campaign, demonstrating selfless courage. His child, whom he eagerly awaited meeting, will know that their father was a hero. Please accept my deepest sympathies in your time of grief. He does not mention that Martin was trying to save a supply truck that sank anyway, that he drowned slowly in liquid mud, eyes wide with terror, calling for Klaus to save him, that the photographs of his wife fell from his pocket and disappeared into the brown water, that his unborn child will grow up fatherless because commanders ordered an advance through impossible terrain. The lies accumulate. 50 letters, 75, 100 each one protecting a family from knowledge that would destroy them, each one adding to the weight Steiner carries. Private Johann Schmidt, age 19, killed November 17th by gunshot wound during assault on Soviet positions. Dear Frau Schmidt, it is my painful duty to inform you that your son Johann was killed in action on November 17, 1941, while serving his country with distinction. He died quickly and without suffering, struck down while advancing upon the enemy. His youthful enthusiasm and dedication inspired all who served with him. He spoke often of his home and family. You were in his thoughts to the end. With deepest sympathies, Captain Victor Steiner. Except Johann did not die quickly. He drowned in his own blood. Over 90 seconds that must have felt like eternity. His eyes found Klaus before the end, looking for help that could not come. His last thoughts were probably not of home, but of pain and confusion, and the terrible realization that he was dying at 19 years old in a place he had never wanted to be. But his mother does not need me to know this. She needs to believe her son died well, died for something, that his last moments were not terror, but purpose. So Steiner gives her that lie, that small mercy, the least he can do for a mother who will grieve for the rest of her life. Sergeant Klaus Hoffen, age 36, killed in action. December 5th, during Soviet counteroffensive, while providing covering fire for retreating elements. Dear Frau Hoffmann, it is my painful duty to inform you that your husband Klaus was killed in action on December 5th, 1941, while serving his country with distinction. He died as he lived, a soldier, to the end, sacrificing himself so that others might live. His bravery and leadership were an inspiration to all who served with him. In his final moments, he spoke of you. He asked me to tell you that he thought of you at the end. He died with your name on his lips, fulfilling his duty with honor. His sacrifice saved many lives, including my own. I am forever grateful for his service. With deepest sympathies, Captain Victor Steiner. Steiner stops, sets down the pen. This letter is different because parts of it are true. Klaus did die, providing covering fire. He did choose to sacrifice himself. He did ask Steiner to tell his wife he thought of her. Those parts are real, but Steiner does not mention the gangrene, the refusal of amputation, the weeks of fever and delirium, the smell of rotting flesh, the look in Klaus's eyes when he realized he was dying from his own choice, the sergeant's final words. With respect, sir, go to hell. Some truths are too heavy for widows to carry, so Steiner wraps them in lies and buries them. Gives Frau Hoffmann a hero, instead of a man who chose death over disability. Perhaps that is kinder. Perhaps it is cowardice. He no longer knows the difference. By dawn, Steiner has written all 161 letters. They sit in neat stacks on the desk before him, each one a small lie wrapped in official language, each one protecting a family from knowledge that would destroy them, each one adding to Steiner's burden. He signs the last letter and sets down the pen. His hand shakes. Not from cold this time, from something else. From the weight of carrying truth that can never be spoken. From the responsibility of deciding what families should know and what they should never know. Outside, the sun rises over Berlin. A new day. The war continues. Men march to the front. Families wave goodbye. Promises are made. Quick war. Decisive victory. Home before next winter.
The same lies that sent Steiner to Russia. The same lies that killed 161 of his men.
He opens his journal for the last time. Writes one final entry. April 3rd, 1942. I have written the last letter, told the last lie, buried the last truth. The families have their comfort. The dead have their honor. And I have my ghosts. They will stay with me in phantom pains and missing limbs and dreams that wake me screaming, in the certain knowledge that I saw something terrible and emerged, changed, broken, rebuilt into a form that no longer fits the world I knew. We learned in Russia that some enemies cannot be conquered. They can only be survived, and some of us could not even do that. Moscow stands. Winter won, and we lost everything. But we lost more than a battle, more than an offensive, more than lives. We lost the myth,
The belief in invincibility, the certainty of victory.
We marched into Russia, believing we were unstoppable. We limped out, knowing we were mortal. That is winter's final accounting, not the frozen corpses, or the amputated limbs, or the destroyed equipment, but the knowledge, bought with blood and suffering, that we were never invincible at all. We were just men. And winter showed us what happens when men challenge forces they cannot control. He closes the journal. Outside his window, Berlin wakes. People begin their day. Children play. Women shop. Old men read newspapers. Life continues. But for Steiner, for Franz, for the 15 survivors of his company who made it home, life will never be the same. They carry Russia with them. The cold, the hunger, the screams, the frozen faces of dead friends. They are home, but part of them will always be there, walking through snow that never ends, watching men die, counting the cost of lies. 3 days later, Franz visits one more time before his train departs for Munich. The boy has a small package wrapped in brown paper. He sets it on Steiner's bedside table. What is this? A gift, sir, or maybe a curse. I'm not sure which. Franz unwraps it carefully with his 3 remaining fingers. Inside is a letter.
The one he found in the Soviet soldier's coat. The one written in Cyrillic that he cannot read.
I carried this since December, the boy says quietly. Thought about throwing it away 100 times, but I couldn't. Someone loved the man I took this coat from. Someone waited for him. This letter proves he was real, that he mattered to someone. I can't return it. Can't even read it. But I thought, maybe you should have it. As a reminder of what? That the enemy was human too. That every frozen body had a name. A family. A life before the war. We talk about casualties and statistics. But each number was someone like us, just born in a different place. Steiner takes the letter, holds it carefully. The paper is worn, the ink faded, but the handwriting is still clear. Loops and curves of someone who took time to write, someone who cared. Thank you, Franz. The boy nods. Then he does something unexpected. He salutes, not the crisp military salute of parade grounds, but a slower, more personal gesture. A final acknowledgement between men who survived something terrible together. Steiner returns the salute. They do not shake hands. Franz no longer has the fingers for it. Instead, they simply look at each other, understanding passing between them, without words. Take care of yourself. Sir. You too. Private. You're dismissed. Franz leaves. Steiner sits alone, holding a letter he cannot read, written by a man whose name he will never know. A reminder that every lie he told, every comfortable falsehood in those 161 letters conceals a truth too terrible to speak. That wars are not fought between nations or ideologies or systems. They are fought between human beings who bleed and freeze and die and leave behind people who loved them. Over the following weeks, Steiner begins the long process of learning to live with what was lost. Physical therapy to use crutches. Prosthetics fitted to his stumps.
Small victories, measured in meters walked without falling.
The body adapts. The mind does not. He has dreams. Always the same dreams. He is back in Russia, back in the snow. His feet are whole. He is running, trying to reach Klaus before the sergeant dies, trying to pull Martin from the mud, trying to warn Johann about the bullets. But he is always too late, always too slow.
The dream ends the same way every time.
With him standing alone in a field of frozen bodies, realizing he is the only one left. He wakes screaming. The nurses come. Give him pills. The pills don't help. Nothing helps except time. And even time doesn't heal. It just teaches you to carry the weight. 6 months after returning to Berlin, Steiner receives a letter. It is from Franz.
The boy has settled in Munich.
Living with his family. He has found work as a bookkeeper. Simple mathematics. Something he can do with 3 fingers. The letter is brief, written in neat, careful script that shows how hard the boy worked to write with his remaining fingers. Dear Captain, I wanted you to know that I am doing well, or as well as can be expected. I think of Russia often, of Klaus and Johann and Martin and all the others. I wonder if they would be proud of us for surviving, or ashamed for leaving them behind. I don't have answers, but I wanted you to know that what you did mattered. You got us out. 15 of us. That's 15 families who still have their sons and fathers and brothers. 15 lives that continue because of decisions you made. I hope you find some peace in that. I know I'm trying to respectfully. Franz Weber. Steiner reads the letter 3 times.
Then he folds it carefully and places it in his journal.
Next to the Soviet letter he still carries. 2 pieces of paper. 2 languages he understands in different ways. One speaks of love, the other of survival. Both are true. Both are necessary. He does not write back immediately. What would he say? That he finds no peace? That the 15 who survived are outnumbered by the 161 who did not? That every day he wakes up and counts the cost and finds it unbearable. Instead, he writes in his journal, reflects on Franz's question. Would the dead be proud or ashamed? He thinks about Klaus, about the sergeant's last words. With respect, sir, go to hell. Was that pride or shame, or something else entirely? Was it permission to survive?
Or condemnation for living when others died?
He does not know, but he continues, because that is what survivors do. They continue. They learn to walk on prosthetic feet. They write letters they don't believe. They tell lies to protect people from truths. They carry ghosts and memories and questions without answers. The war continues.
The Eastern Front stabilizes.
Other offensives are launched. Other companies are destroyed. The machine grinds on. But Steiner is no longer part of it. He is retired with honors, given a small pension, awarded medals for his service. The medals sit in a drawer. He does not look at them. On the first anniversary of Martin's death, Steiner walks to a church. He is better with the prosthetics now, can walk several blocks without stopping. People stare at him. A man with no fee, moving slowly through Berlin's streets. He ignores them. Inside the church, he sits alone in a pew. He is not religious, but he needs somewhere to remember, somewhere quiet. He thinks about Martin drowning in mud, about Klaus dying with a machine gun, about Johann's surprised face frozen in the snow, about all the others whose names fill 161 letters. He prays, not to God. He does not believe God was in Russia, but he prays to the dead, asks their forgiveness for surviving, for writing lies to their families, for leading them into a nightmare he couldn't lead Blue out of. The prayers help nothing, but they feel necessary. like a debt, being acknowledged if not paid. When spring comes and the snow melts in Russia, someone will find bodies. Farmers will plow fields and uncover bones. Children will play in forests and discover frozen corpses. Soldiers will be buried. Others will be left where they fell. Eventually, grass will grow. Trees will bloom. Nature will reclaim what war took. But Steiner will remember. Franz will remember. The 15 survivors will remember. They will carry Russia with them in nightmares and phantom pains, and the certain knowledge that they saw something terrible and emerged, changed. This is the legacy of the frozen army. Not glory, not honor, not victory, just survival. And the question that haunts every survivor: why me? Why did I live when better men died? Steiner has no answer, only the certainty that the question will follow him for the rest of his life. That every morning he wakes, he will remember those who did not. That every step on prosthetic feet will remind him of Klaus and Johann and Martin and all the others who gave their real feet, their real hands, their real lives. For what? For Moscow that was never taken. For orders that were never questioned until it was too late. For a war that should have ended, but continued. The tribunal asked if his men died well. The truth is they died unnecessarily, following a plan that was flawed from inception, led by commanders who valued objectives over lives, sacrificed to ambition and ideology, and the myth of invincibility. But Steiner could not tell them that, so he told them what soldiers always tell. They died following orders, as if obedience justified everything, as if following commands absolved the commanders who gave them. He knows better now. Obedience without judgment is not honor. It is abdication. The officers who sent 180 men to freeze in Russia bear responsibility for what happened to them. But so does Steiner. He led them. He could have questioned, could have refused, could have done something other than follow orders he knew were wrong. He did not. And when 161 men paid the price, this is the truth he carries. The burden that weighs more than lost feet. The knowledge that he was complicit. That following orders is not enough when the orders lead to slaughter. Russia taught him this. Winter showed him, and now he must live with it. The Frozen Army's legacy is written in letters to families, in crutches and prosthetics, in screams that wake men from sleep, in the certain knowledge that war is not glory or honor or meaning. It is just cold and death and survival. And sometimes survival is the worst fate of all.